If I'm going to do this whole YouTube thing, I have got to figure out how to get on top of news quicker. I've got to figure out how to make videos as news drops, because these Elder Scrolls 6 leaks came out a couple days ago, and I am just now getting around to making a video about it. But all these YouTubers who have already posted videos about it, they're all full-time YouTubers making big bucks off this stuff. You know, I got a job. I got stuff to do, man. So this is my first time I've had the opportunity to make a video about it. But I wanted to get my thoughts on the leaks. I wanted to talk about them a little bit. I want to talk about one thing in particular in these leaks that I really hate and that really worries me if it is true. Before I continue, I'm going to be really annoying real quick and just say 98% of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you guys like this video, if you like the look of the content on the rest of my page, please hit that subscribe button for more. I'm a small channel trying to grow, so I feel like I kind of have to ask you that. I'm sorry for e-begging, but if you want to, leave a like for the algorithm and all that annoying, boring YouTube jargon, and yeah, thank you. Now, just as a quick run through, we're supposed to operate under the assumption that this is not new information. Apparently, the guy who made this Reddit post, he just took a bunch of information that's already been leaked and already been reported on, and he did some like base speculation on things that are already pretty much common knowledge or pretty much foregone conclusions at this point, threw it all together and tried to act like it was brand new information. So apparently the guy who made this Reddit post doesn't actually know anything. However, a lot of the information in this post is apparently possibly true. So for this video's sake, for conversation's sake, we're going to operate under the assumption that these leaks are true, that everything in this post is real, and I just want to talk about it in the event that it is real. Even if it's not real, we're going to act like it is just for this video's sake. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time jumping into it. The first part of this leak is that Hammerfell and High Rock will be the setting for Elder Scrolls 6, and that's two provinces. You know, obviously in previous Elder Scrolls games, Morrowind took place in Morrowind, Oblivion took place in Cyrodiil, Skyrim took place in Skyrim. So this would be the first game that launches with multiple provinces as the playable map. Obviously Skyrim added Solstheim, which is an island of Morrowind, in a DLC, but in terms of a game launch, and that obviously wasn't a whole province, it was just an island. So this would be the first time we get two whole provinces to explore, which I think is cool. I don't think you could have done just Hammerfell, because Hammerfell is basically just a giant desert, and I just feel like that would have gotten super repetitive, so that's probably why they threw High Rock in there, which is kind of a slightly smaller province. And High Rock is a little bit more like, you know, Cyrodiil and parts of Skyrim, where it's kind of mountainous and, you know, it's not the desert. So, you know, I'm not going to go into a whole lore thing. Most people know that High Rock is the home of the Bretons. Hammerfell is the home of the Redguards. I think that's a cool blend of cultures that we can explore and landscapes we can explore. So I think that's exciting. The leak says that there will be 12 to 13 cities in the game. There were 9 capital cities, hold capital cities in Skyrim. So there will be more main cities in this game than there will be in Skyrim. Obviously, that makes sense when you have two provinces involved. But obviously, in Skyrim, it was the main major cities, but then you also had these little villages scattered around. So, for example, in Whiterun Hold, you had the city of Whiterun, but then you also had a smaller village in Riverwood. And I don't remember if Rorikstead or Ivarstead are part of the Whiterun Hold. They might be part of separate holds. I think Ivarstead might be in the Rift, and Rorikstead might be in the Reach. I don't know. I'm not great with my Skyrim geography off the top of my head in terms of where which holds are which. But at the end of the day, you had the 9 major cities, and then you had smaller villages and settlements scattered across. So if there's 12 to 13 cities in the Elder Scrolls 6, I would assume there will be smaller villages scattered around, and so that's pretty good. I like that. Now, the next part of this leak is the part that concerns me, and I'm going to go off on kind of a tangent about why I don't like this, if this is real, and that is the whole naval combat shipbuilding thing. I have never been a fan of that mechanic in general. When it was in Assassin's Creed Black Flag, I know everybody loved that game. Everybody loved the naval combat. I found it super tedious and annoying and obnoxious, and I did not like it at all. So that's more of just my opinion. I don't really like that type of thing. That doesn't mean you don't have to. Most people I've seen haven't had a problem with this, and honestly, it makes sense from Bethesda's standpoint because they introduced the shipbuilding mechanic in Starfield, where you build your ship, you can change your weapons, you can change your defense mechanics and all that type of stuff. And you know, your ship got you from point A to point B. You were looking at it all the time. You had your crew in there, so it was like a pretty big mechanic. And so, porting that technology over to Elder Scrolls 6 for naval battles makes sense. But for me, where my concern lies with that is that I feel like focusing that much on a mechanic like that will take away from other aspects of the game that we desperately need to be good. So, for example, the Elder Scrolls series is known for its incredible exploration, and that was something that was missing in Starfield. The exploration in Starfield was not great. There were thousands of planets, but only like 8 of those planets had cities on them, and then even the planets that did have cities on them, they had a city, and then there was nothing on the rest of the planet. Like, literally, the rest of the planet was procedurally generated. There was nothing on it, and so all these planets felt super empty, and then outside of those 8 cities that had, or outside of those 8 planets that had cities, all of the thousands of other planets had nothing on them. It was all procedurally generated. So it was like, oh, look at this cool shipbuilding mechanic. You can get on your ship and you can go to this planet way over here, but there's nothing to explore. So my concern would be if they focus on this ship mechanic, if they're putting all this time and effort into creating a shipbuilding mechanic and ship combat and ship traversal, that means they're probably going to have to put some interesting things out in the sea for you to discover, and I'm worried about them doing something procedurally generated in that regard, and it's going to take away from that feeling of wonder, that feeling of exploration that Elder Scrolls does so well. And I don't want that to take away, I don't want them focusing on shipbuilding and ship traversal and all that. I don't want that to take away from the actual on the ground world, like in Hammerfell or High Rock. I want to be able to walk out of wherever we start in that game. I want to be able to walk out and look out onto the landscape and be like, oh, there's a ruin over there. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to go into that ruin and I'm going to find some really cool weapon, or maybe I'm going to run into this random side quest, or maybe I'm going to find a brand new follower in there. I don't know. And then I'm going to leave that dungeon and I'm going to walk down the road a little bit, and then somebody's going to try to rob me, or somebody's going to be getting robbed, and I got to do something about it. Like those world encounters, those different things that make the world feel alive, that's what makes Elder Scrolls an Elder Scrolls game. And so if they're focusing a lot on something else that could take away from that feeling of exploration in the actual world itself, I think that would be really bad. Now, the leak also says, obviously, you'll be able to edit your ships, so new cannons, new sails, things like that to improve your ship, which means, obviously, there'll be ship combat, and then you can, like, run in, when you meet NPCs out in the world, you can recruit them to go be your crew on your ship, which is like, okay, I mean, I guess that makes sense, but again, I just feel like that means that they're expecting you to be on the ship all the time, and I don't like that. I don't want to be on the ship all the time. Now, if they were doing this as just a side quest line, like in Skyrim, you have the Dark Brotherhood and you have, the Thieves Guild, and then in Starfield, you had like the Crimson Fleet side quest, and that was a fun side quest where you were a space pirate pretty much. If you want to do some sort of pirate side quest where the shipbuilding and ship mechanics are a thing, then fine, that's fine. Like, I could probably even find myself enjoying that. But if it's part of the main quest line, if it's a major part of the game, it's a major central part of exploration and all that, I don't like that. So, it really just boils down to, I don't want them putting all of this effort and all of this development power into creating this mechanic and into focusing on ship exploration and sea exploration and all that, because I'm worried that's going to take away from the actual exploration on the ground in the real world. And we know that Bethesda can't handle that. But that Starfield was just too ambitious. That's why it felt so empty and lifeless, is because they were too ambitious. They took on too much at once, and they stretched themselves thin, and they couldn't make the planets and the world feel explorable and feel fun. And that is the number one priority in an Elder Scrolls game. So that's enough of me ranting about that. Again, I just don't really like that type of thing anyway, but I am concerned that it's going to take away from aspects of the game. But the next thing I wanted to talk about, and it's funny because I'm going to contradict myself a little bit here, the settlement building and the fortress management and stuff like that. I actually love that. I don't love that in previous Bethesda games per se, like in Skyrim and Hearthfire. This is where it pretty much started. You could buy a plot of land, you could build your house, and it was a really cool concept, but it got super tedious after a while. It was like, okay, I'm tired of running out of nails, having to fast travel to Whiterun, buy 30 iron ingots, smith a bunch of nails and locks and all this stuff, and then go back just to build a chest or a door, and I ran out of wooden logs, damn it, now I gotta go down to the mill and buy some more wooden logs, and it just got way too tedious. So it got to the point where now every time I play Skyrim and I want to build a house in the Hearthfire expansion, I just download a mod for a cheat chest that has all the stuff I need, and then it is fun in that way of just like building this homestead for myself. They obviously ported that over to Fallout 4, that's where they really fleshed it out into an outpost system, but again, I feel like in Fallout 4, them putting so much emphasis on the settlement building, on the outpost building, took away from the integrity and the exploration of the open world. Like, I feel like they expected you to be at your settlement more than you were going to be out exploring, and that you're going to just keep coming back to the settlement to build new buildings and recruit new people to it and do quests for people at your settlement and do all this stuff. And so I feel like because they focus so much on that, they focus less on the open world. So that would be my concern about settlement building and stuff. But all of that yapping is leading to me dreaming up this dream mechanic in this game where you can start a settlement and they all look up to you as this like lordly figure and like the ruler of this settlement, and you can recruit people, you can get people to come to your village, and maybe you hire a blacksmith to come from some other village, and or maybe you just hire a blacksmith, you find some guy in a tavern who's a blacksmith and you can hire him to come be the blacksmith in your village or the blacksmith at your castle or whatever. And then, we just got attacked by some bandits and they killed my blacksmith. Damn, now I got to go find another one. And then maybe they expand it to where there's an economy system to where it's like, okay, my blacksmith just made a bunch of really cool swords. I'm going to go sell them to this hold and get some money. I'm going to go sell them to this city. The Jarl, or I guess it won't be a Jarl, the ruler of this other city, I'm going to sell my swords to them and I'm going to make money off of it. Like some sort of economy system would be cool. And then like you're just walking through the streets of your village and they're looking at you and they're like, hello, my lord, or, paying taxes to you or whatever, just stuff like that. Some sort of like Sims-esque ruling system to where you are the lord of this settlement, you are in charge of all these people and they look up to you or whatever. I think that would be really cool because in the Elder Scrolls you are this big you're this big mythical figure where you have all these cool powers and you're doing all these crazy feats, but then you go into a city and everybody looks at you like you're scum. So I feel like being the lord of your own village would just be a really cool mechanic to where you feel like you're as powerful as you are. And then, it could also double as a player home. Like you just build your player home similar to how you did in Hearthfire. You got this big, like I'm just imagining like you buy this plot of land on a hill or something. And at the top of the hill, you build like a big house and it's a player home and you've got everything you need in there. And then, down the hill, there's there's houses and there's a blacksmith and you build an inn over here and you've got wanderers coming into your settlement to come stay at your inn and stuff like that. And there's like maybe there's a notice board with all kinds of different quests you could do for your people. I just think that could be a really sick mechanic in an Elder Scrolls game, as long as it doesn't sacrifice the integrity of the open world, the explorability. But I just think that would be really cool. Now, obviously, before you can buy a plot of land and build a village on it, you'd probably have to do what you do in Skyrim before you can buy a plot of land in Hearthfire, where you've got to get on friendly terms with the Jarl of that hold, and you've got to convince them that you're, a good enough, well-known, upstanding citizen to where they want to sell you a piece of their land and they want to give you lordship over it and stuff like that. So anyway, I think that could be done really, really cool and really well, and I would be down for that a lot. I'm a lot more down for that than I am for the shipbuilding mechanic, that's for sure. So anyway, I just went on about that for a while. So now I just want to talk about some of the other things that were mentioned in the leaks, and then we'll wrap this thing up. The first thing of note is that dragons are back, apparently, and I mean, it's okay. I'm assuming the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to follow the trend of the Elder Scrolls where they go a little bit in the future with each installment. Like I'm pretty sure Skyrim was like 250 years after the events of Oblivion. So if you're still going in that, it's like the canon of Skyrim does matter. So obviously in Skyrim, the main quest line, the point of the game, is to defeat Alduin and stop him from resurrecting all the dragons and taking over the world. But when you defeat Alduin and you go back, you get back from Sovngarde and you're at the throat of the world, there's still a bunch of dragons that are alive and they're flying around, and there's still, dragons that can attack you. So dragons aren't like extinct. You didn't make them extinct. So they're still there. So I guess it does make sense that they would be there. It's just interesting to see how they would incorporate that. And the next part of this leak is the more flexible progression system and no more classes, which is just funny because Skyrim didn't have classes either. I'm not the biggest progression system person. Like I don't really care. Like Skyrim's progression system was fine, but I also liked Oblivion's progression system. I'd say in terms of progression system, my favorite one that comes to mind is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, where it's like you start off not being good at anything, and then in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 you get in a sword fight and your strength increases, your agility, your vitality, all that increases as skills, but your swordsmanship also increases. And so it's like by doing things you upgrade certain parts of whatever you're doing to where you get stronger, faster, have more health, more stamina, and you're better at sword fighting. And like in Oblivion, the athletics skill, I thought that was something that was missing from Skyrim that would have been cool, where it's like the more you run and jump around, the more your athletic skill raises, and at that point you can run faster, you can jump higher, you have less of a stamina penalty when you swing in your sword or blocking or whatever. So I like the whole idea of if you do something you're going to get better at it no matter what it is. Like, you know, all the magic in Skyrim, you had all the different magical classes, like all the schools of magic, and you would upgrade them by doing different spells in those schools of magic. But again, I mean, I honestly find progression systems kind of tedious and annoying anyway. Like, I don't like having to figure out where I want to spend my perk points. I mean, it's cool once you do buy the perk. It's cool seeing your character be able to do something new or be better at something, but I don't know. I just find that so tedious anyway. So I don't really care that much about this. If it's just a little bit more fleshed out version of the Skyrim progression system, that's fine with me. So I don't really care that much. And the last part of this leak is the fact that there is a 2025 reveal supposedly going to happen in July of 2025. And I mean, that makes sense, right? It makes sense for them to finally reveal something after all this time. It's a couple years post Starfield. It's been 7 years since the teaser trailer. It's been 14 years since the last Elder Scrolls game. So at the end of the day, Bethesda owes us. So it wouldn't surprise me if we saw something of the Elder Scrolls 6 this year. But there are completely separate leaks that are saying an Oblivion remake is coming. So are you this year? Like, apparently it's supposed to come out this year. So are you telling me we're going to get an Oblivion remake this year and we're going to see some Elder Scrolls 6 news? I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen, and it would be awesome if it did, but do we really think Bethesda is going to do that for us, even though they do owe us? And I saw in Mr. Matty Plays video, he talked about this, about just like, yeah, that'd be sick, but do we really think they're going to do that? Do we really think we're going to get that much Elder Scrolls in a short period of time? Because if they are revealing it in July, that means that's around the time that the Oblivion remake is also supposed to come out. So in the same time frame, Bethesda's going to hand us a remake of a legendary game like Oblivion, and they're going to give us Elder Scrolls 6 news. I don't know. Maybe they do that and make up for all the years of silence and mistreating of Elder Scrolls fans over the last however many years. So anyway, that's my take on the Elder Scrolls 6 leaks. The big thing for me is the shipbuilding mechanic and the ship combat and the naval combat. I hate that stuff. So I hope that's not true. I hope that's not like a focal point of the game, and maybe when it comes out I'll end up liking it if that is in the game, and I'll eat my words. But on paper, my opinion is I'm not the biggest fan of that mechanic. I don't really like it that much. But yeah, so those are my thoughts on the Elder Scrolls 6 leaks. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.